The battlefield had gone silent, save for the wind that whispered through the scorched remains of what had once been a thriving colony. Varric lay among the rubble, his silver-gray fur matted with blood that pooled beneath him in dark, viscous puddles. His breathing came in shallow, labored gasps, each one a reminder that his long life was finally reaching its end. He had fought in 17 campaigns across 9 star systems. His pack had sung songs of his victories, howled his name beneath 3 different moons. But now at the age of 63 cycles, ancient by Lycaros standards, Varric found himself alone, his abdomen torn open by plasma fire, his left hind leg twisted at an unnatural angle. Death was an old friend he had seen claim countless brothers and sisters. He did not fear it. He had lived with honor, fought with courage, and protected his pack until his body could protect no more. The battle was over. His enemies had retreated. His own forces had moved on, believing him already claimed by the void. Varric closed his amber eyes and waited. The cold was beginning to seep into his bones, numbing the pain. It would be over soon. Then he heard footsteps, not the heavy tread of Lycaros warriors nor the mechanical click of the Zrathi invaders. These were lighter, quicker, accompanied by the rustling of equipment and a voice muttering in a language he didn't recognize. Jesus Christ, there's still one alive out here. Varric's eyes fluttered open. Standing above him was a creature he had only seen in intelligence briefings, a human. She was small by warrior standards, barely reaching his shoulder height even as he lay dying. Her skin was the color of earth after rain, her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Most striking were her eyes, brown and intense, filled not with the coldness of a soldier, but with something else entirely. Determination. Hey, stay with me, Dr. Alara Quinn said, dropping to her knees beside him. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, pulling medical equipment from the pack on her back. I'm a medic. I'm going to help you. Varric tried to speak, to tell her it was pointless, that his time had come, but all that emerged was a weak growl. His translator implant had been damaged in the blast. Alara didn't seem to need words. Her scanner swept over his body and her expression tightened. She had seen the wounds. She knew what they meant, but she didn't leave. Okay, big guy, this is gonna hurt, she said, her voice steady despite the grim prognosis displayed on her medical readout. Multiple perforations to internal organs. Severe hemorrhaging. Shattered femur. She looked down at him and Varric saw something in her eyes that made his fading heart beat a fraction stronger. But I've seen worse. And I've saved worse. She injected something into his neck, a painkiller that dulled the agony to a distant throb. Then her hands were inside his wound, working with a speed and precision that defied belief. She wasn't a warrior, yet she fought death with the same ferocity Varric had once fought enemies. The thing about humans, Alara said, her voice conversational even as her hands performed impossible miracles, is that we're stubborn, really, really stubborn. We don't accept impossible. We don't accept too late, and we sure as hell don't leave anyone behind. She pulled out a device that hummed with energy, a biowelder, standard in human field medicine but revolutionary by galactic standards. Tissue began to knit together under its beam. She worked with absolute focus, sealing arteries, repairing organs, stabilizing what should have been fatal damage. Varric watched her face as she worked. There was no disgust at his alien physiology, no hesitation despite his predatory appearance. To her, he wasn't a monster or an enemy or even a different species. He was simply a life that needed saving, and she would not let him go. Hours passed. The human worked without rest, without food, without even pausing to drink water. Her hands trembled from exhaustion, but they never stopped. She talked to him the entire time, telling him about Earth, about her medical training, about a dog she'd had as a child that looked kind of like you, actually, but smaller and less dignified. Varric felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Hope. By the time the first sun rose over the broken colony, Alara had done the impossible. Varric's wounds were closed, his organs functional, his leg immobilized in a medical brace. He would live. She collapsed beside him, her back against the same rubble that had been his deathbed. "There," she gasped, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Don't you dare die on me now. I didn't work through the night just to have you give up." Varric turned his massive head toward her. His translator was still broken, so he did the only thing he could. He lifted his good forepaw and gently, carefully placed it over her small hand. Alara looked down at the gesture, then up at his scarred face. She smiled, tired, triumphant, beautiful. "You're welcome, Varric," she said, reading his name from the translator chip she'd managed to partially repair. "Welcome back to the land of the living." In that moment, Varric understood something that would change him forever. Humans were not just warriors or explorers or the galaxy's newest addition to the galactic community. They were healers who waged war against death itself. They were beings who saw life, any life, as worth fighting for. They were hope made flesh. Varric had accepted his fate on that battlefield. But Dr. Alara Quinn had given him something far more precious than survival. She had given him a reason to believe that in a universe of war and darkness, there were still those who fought not to destroy, but to save. She had given him hope. And for an old wolf who had seen too much death, that changed everything.